if you think about our political system outside of science, there are certain drivers that dictate what our reaction to climate change is going to be on a large scale. You know, we can all make individual choices. I mean, I can ride my bike to work, I can buy a smaller house, you know, I can eat local foods, but there's only a certain number of people that are going to behave like that. And other people are going to think, well, what's my bottom line here? You know, am I going to go out and buy a hybrid that costs twice as much, or am I going to continue to buy the car that I have always done? Where the biggest uncertainties lie in the predictions are on the regional scale. So there are global predictions that are very robust in the models. And when we look at large scales, these models do a very good job at simulating, you know, for example, in the Arctic. Right now we're predicting there to be about a 10-degree warming by the end of the century. And that's a very robust signal because it's over a large area and there are physical mechanisms behind it. The fact basically that the ice sheets are melting and can cause tremendous warming. And you know, if you think outside of the US, you have all these countries like India and China that are developing at a tremendous scale, and they're burning fossil fuels at rates, you know, that we haven't seen before. So the question really becomes, you know, how do we globally start to, you know, react to this idea that, you know, carbon dioxide is a pollution to the earth and it's causing this big change, and how are we going to, you know, adapt to that and mitigate that? But I think, you know, those kind of things, to make the technology cheaper is one part, but also these big industries, we have to change, you know, how we produce things, how we ship things, distribution networks. And also I think the cost of things need to reflect the damage that they do to the environment. I think, you know, you have to do what you can yourself, but you also need to be aware that, you know, the politicians that you're electing are the people that are really going to be able to enact large-scale change. You know, what we do here impacts everybody globally. What people in India do affects everybody globally. It's not like it's a local pollution, like, you know, we have a smokestack here in Champaign and that's polluting us. If you're sitting in India, you have a lot of poor people in the country, and you want to obviously bring their standard of living up to more like Western standards. And if you follow the traditional Western pathway, that means you have to develop a consumer economy, which is going to produce a lot of carbon dioxide. From a human rights perspective, it's difficult because obviously you don't want to say, yeah, you must remain poor and have disease and bad facilities and all that. So there's a lot of difficult questions around this. There's also been some changes in our society. Like, Americans like to live in larger houses. They like to live in big suburbs that are far from where they work. And those kind of systems aren't really served well by mass transit. So I think, you know, there needs to be some change in perspective. So people, you know, need to obviously think about politics as well as, you know, doing their own things to help the environment.